Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching, where we help women recover from and flourish after stress and trauma. So maybe you know people like this. Maybe you've seen these situations in the movie. Maybe this person is you, the quiet, shy woman who, out of the blue, shoots her husband and kills him. Sometimes someone who is being treated abusively, and instead of fighting back, just takes it and seems to not even be affected by it. We've seen about the woman who says she falls down the stairs to explain her bruises, but she just keeps on keeping on. The child who comes into your classroom perpetually angry, fidgety, out of sorts. The girl who is saved from trafficking and says she's fine. Or how about yourself? In the morning after a restful sleep, your child asks for something crazy and you patiently explain why they can't have it. And after a long, hard day, they ask for something else and you blow up at them. All of these people, including yourself, are experiencing the effects of stress and trauma on their bodies. Remember that trauma is the effect that the stressful situations have on your body, not necessarily one huge traumatic experience, though it can also be that. So, we're continuing our series on recovering from stress and trauma. Last week, we started talking about our brain's attempts to keep us safe by pouring hormones into our body whenever it senses we're in danger, either physically or emotionally. Remember, the brain can't tell the difference. If you missed last week, you may want to catch up. Just go to my website, kimberlyncoaching.com, and on the Springboard page, you can watch all my previous videos. Today, we're going to dig deeper into the ways our body reacts to the stress we encounter. I'm going to share my screen with you, so hopefully this will work okay. Okay, hopefully you can see this. We're going to talk about Bruce Banner or Hulk. You've heard of this, I'm hoping. You remember that Bruce Banner is calm, rational, he's reasonable, he can be, he's understanding, he's caring, he's kind. And the Hulk, when Bruce Banner gets triggered, he becomes the Hulk. And the Hulk is powerful, he's strong, but he's not rational. He's not reasonable. He can't be talked down or calmed down. This is a metaphor that Dr. Roten of the Arizona Trauma Institute uses to describe what we're talking about today. This is a good way of describing us when we get triggered. So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about our premise for today, which is that the state of the body influences our behavior, our emotions, and our thinking. So many times, the behavior that we're experiencing or that we're seeing from other people, we're judging this as bad behavior, when really this is just us or others reacting properly to the chemicals that our brains are pouring into our bodies. We can be compassionate to ourselves and to others. We can realize that we're not crazy, we're not bad, and then we can use that care and concern to learn ways to move ourselves into more regulated bodies, which will then help us feel more calm and more able to think clearly and accomplish the goals that we have of living strong, confident, joyful lives. Remember, last week we talked about how when your brain senses you're in danger, it pours about 30 hormones into your body. The main ones we talk about are cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. And when the behavior and the feelings that we experience when we are having these large doses of hormones are not something we're choosing to feel. This is our biology. So if we get a large increase of noradrenaline, we move into that anger, aggression, and hostility state. And if we have a large increase in adrenaline, then we're more likely to be in fear, withdrawal, and flight. Remember last week we talked about the fight, flight, or freeze. I'm sure you've all heard about that. And those are the different ways that we can respond when we're in a situation of stress or danger, whether it is physical or whether it is emotional. Just a reminder of what we talked about last week, some of the specific things that happen to our bodies when we have this, what Dr. Roten calls the fiery cocktail. So remember our breathing, our heart and our lungs, we start breathing faster, our heart starts racing. We get a pump of blood sugar, glucose in our body to give us some more energy. Our muscles tighten in our body. This can cause us to have headaches, back and shoulder aches, body aches. And if we have these stress hormones on a daily basis or on a very regular basis, they will weaken our immune system and they reduce our ability to be healthy. You've heard me talk about this word before, catabolic. So catabolic means destructive, it means tearing down. When you live in this stress experience with these hormones coursing through your body on a regular basis, this becomes catabolic and it wears you down and tears you down. So what we want to do is they're appropriate for the purpose, but they're appropriate for temporary matters, not for a daily regimen. So back to Bruce Banner. Normally we are, or hopefully normally we are in Bruce Banner mode. We are in a regulated brain. We're calm, we're focused, we're rational. The way the body is meant to work is that when we have a stress, we're triggered, somehow the brain thinks we're in danger, then our brain becomes dysregulated, pushes all the hormones into it. We turn into Hulk brain. We fight our way out of the system if necessary. If that doesn't work, we do the flight or we do the freeze. But the Hulk brain is the more powerful thing that we're going to try. And then hopefully we get out of the danger, we move back into being regulated, and we move back into being Bruce Banner. This is the way it's supposed to work. It's just a process. Remember that we said that it takes 8 to 30 hours to metabolize those hormones. So hopefully when you have this happen, within the 8 to 30 hours, you metabolize and you're back in Bruce Banner. But remember, we said that if this happens to you daily or regularly, you may end up with this in your system constantly. And so you end up living in this dysregulated system. Now, we all have a range of tolerance. So let's say this down here on the bottom is the baseline. This is where we're calm, we're regulated, we're not being triggered. We're in Bruce Banner mode. And little things happen to us. Someone pulls in front of us on the freeway. We get a little angry, but then we calm down. Or the children do something that irritate us, or all the different little things in life that irritate us. It moves us up a little, but we're still in the bottom of this tolerance, and so nothing happens. If we get something large and it gets us up above the upper range, or if we get constant of these small things, then we end up crossing our range of tolerance. When we get so much of that fiery cocktail, which is what Dr. Roten calls all those hormones in our system, if we get up in that upper range, then we turn into Hulk. Now, we've all done this. Remember, like I mentioned, like after a restful sleep at night, in the morning, your kids are, mommy, can we do this? Can we do that? And you're patient with them. You say, no, darling, we can't do this. We have to do blah, blah, blah. Then you've had a long, stressful day. You are taking them to the store. You're having to pick up supper or whatever. And they're like, mommy, can we have a candy bar? And you're like, no, I told you. And you bite out of them, and you're halfway mean to them, and you're thinking, good grief, what is wrong? And that is not the kind of mom I want to be. And then what we do, right, is we criticize ourselves, and then we pour more of those hormones in. And so we just end up staying in Hulk mode all the time. Here's another graphic about this. So remember, we talked about the three things. We either fight, we flight, or we do what's called mitigation. And mitigation means you shut down. You don't want to feel the feelings. Your fighting doesn't work, or it doesn't get you out of the situation for whatever reason, either true or just because you believe you cannot leave the situation, you cannot flee, you cannot run away, you cannot adapt to it, then you just shut down. you become powerless. You become um, just sad, hopeless. We're going to have another picture of that in a minute. But when you're trying to heal and balance your system, and so you sometimes you go in and out of these, right? You may have your preferred method of adapting and relating to your situation, but you may go in and out depending upon what the situation is. So then here's another example. So there's this ladder. At the top of this ladder, this is the way when our body is and our mind are acting optimally, we are in the top of this and we are in our social system. We're friendly, we're um, responsive, we're able to think, we're able to focus, we're basically happy, and we're flexible, we can adapt to our environment. So we're in our social engagement system. So things trigger us, we get a little angry, we get stressful things happening, and then we move into our aggressive defense system. This is where you're going to do the fight or the flight. You're going to do something to get yourself out of the situation. When none of that works, and you move down the ladder, and now they're in their passive defense system. So this is where you're depressed, you're sad, you're hopeless. For those of you who've heard me talk about the levels of energy, this bottom layer here is level one. Level one, we're sad, we're defensive, we have no hope, we're apathetic, we cannot imagine a way of things getting any better, we don't have hope for the future, we can't think. The middle one here is in the levels of energy is level two. This is where you're angry. This actually is more powerful than level one because it may cause you to make some changes. But again, when we stay in these kind of levels on a daily basis, this tears down our body, tears down our psyche. It's just not good for us. Here's some behaviors that you may have or you may see in people that are experiencing they're acting out of this system, the Hulk system. These are the action-oriented behaviors. So you or other people may be angry, defensive, hostile, irrational, having trouble focusing, can't sleep well, maybe hyperactive. There are children who are diagnosed with hyperactivity when actually, if you checked into their home life, they have a very stressful home life at home, and they're showing up at school in Hulk mode every day. Irritabilities, they may be behind in learning, different things like that. And then here's some more behaviors. These are the more passive ones. This is that freezing, you're stuck. I've heard people talk about, I just don't have any feelings. I just, things that you used to enjoy, don't enjoy anymore. This is where people do self-soothing. They develop addictions, all kind of addictions, whether it's chemical, whether it's activity. You might be suicidal here, compulsive, impulsive. You're distancing yourself from others, you're isolating, you're sad, you're withdrawn. And all of these behaviors on both of these screens, we see them and we judge them as being bad, and they're certainly not productive, but they're just normal, congruent, and predictable behaviors for what our bodies do when they have the chemicals in our body that we are living with. So now that we know about this, what can we do about this? First, how do we respond to ourselves and others when we or they are in Hulk mode? With compassion. Let's don't judge each other. Let's realize that what's going on is something that's not in our control or their control. And we know that if we start bad mouthing ourselves, criticizing ourselves, saying, why are you doing this again? You're never going to get out through this. And if we're doing that to them, it's just making more hormones get poured out into our system. It's just making it lengthen. It's making it worse. It's not being helpful at all. So if we can start talking and thinking compassionately to ourselves, compassionately to others, then and understanding in a calm way, then we can start the road to calming ourselves out of this Hulk mode. So then once we are being compassionate, then we're stopping the hormones from being poured out. So then how do we get ourselves out of this Hulk mode? This is something you have to start working on, finding the things that help you. But at this point, if you're really riled up and you're really angry, you're probably not going to feel like doing any meditating. As a Christian, you might, we're taught and we believe that prayer is powerful and helpful. But if you're in this realm, you're not going to feel like praying. You're not going to feel like reading your Bible. And if you are condemning yourself for this, again, you're going to keep those hormones flowing. So just understand that when you're in this mode, you're probably not going to be able to do anything calm. You're going to have to start by doing something active to get yourself to calm down, to metabolize a little of those hormones. So any kind of activity, whatever that you enjoy. If you're in a schoolroom and your child, you notice a child is acting in these behaviors, maybe you just stop and say, man, I am just feeling stressed. I just need to stretch and move my arms around and just do some little activities with your classroom to get everybody moving and to help that person and help you and other people who are probably experiencing the same thing. So just take some time to do some activities. When you can calm yourself a little bit, there are other things you can learn to do. The breathing, I taught you a breathing exercise last week. I'm not going to teach another one this week, but we'll do some more going forward. But breathing exercises are always good. Activity, once you get a little bit calmed, if you're angry about a certain thing, writing is always good. So I've got a video. I call writing my magic tool, nearly. And if you go to my website, you'll see all kind of places where you can sign up and you can get that video and watch that video. And it talks about all different kinds of writing and all the ways that writing helps you. I used to use this a lot when I used to spend a lot of time in anger. I couldn't go to sleep at night because my brain was just on high alert. And so I would do all different kind of writing and it would help me. It would calm me down. So getting out of Hulk mode. Another thing is starting to recognize in your body, and this is also part of how to stop how to stop ourselves from getting in Hulk mode in the first place. Start noticing our body, noticing how we feel in our body. When I feel angry, where do I feel this? I feel this in my gut. I feel the nerves on the outsides of my arms. I feel tension in my face. I feel it here. I feel it in my eyes. I feel it in my shoulders. I start breathing strong. To stop and think about your body. Often we lose touch with our body. We're not conscious of what's going on in our body. But as we start to be more conscious of it, then when you realize, okay, my shoulders are tense, then consciously calm them, relax them. If you're getting ready to do a presentation in front of a bunch of people and you're starting to stress out and you're feeling this, you're getting in Hulk mode for that reason. Again, where am I feeling this? I'm tight here. Relax it on purpose. This is a growth thing. So sometimes you're not going to even realize that you've been through this until the end of it. And you can look back and go, oh, I was in Hulk mode. Okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can I do better next time? Sometimes you may notice it right here in the middle of it and you're still too wired up. You're still going to have to finish it out. Other times, as you move on with this, as you grow and learn, you can, at the very beginning or in the middle, you realize what you're doing and you can calm yourself. You can breathe. You can tell yourself, this has happened before. I realize why I'm so upset about this is because all these hormones. I'm going to let those stop and I'm going to believe I can get through this. And so you can kind of stop it in the middle. As you go on, when it first starts, you start to realize where you're feeling it. You can stop it at the beginning. This is a process, a growth process. And eventually you may get to a point where you may notice the trigger, but then you don't feel the trigger at all. It doesn't affect you. And you might think, that used to really set me off. And today I'm still pretty calm. Remember my story I told you last week when I got the text from the past? And at first it was just a big rush. I mean, immediately I was shaking and I had all these symptoms. And then the second day, or the third day when I texted back, I also got a rush, but I didn't get as big of a one. it was smaller. And I think it was partly because of all the processing I had done, and I felt strong going into it. And so when we can start to feel strong going into these things, then we can not be as triggered because we know that we can work through this. We know we can accomplish what we need to do, and that we're not going to let whoever or whatever the situation is overcome us. As you're working through this, if you want to, if you need some help, and obviously a gift you can give yourself to help you do this is take advantage of the free 45-minute coaching session I'm offering anyone who's interested. No strings attached, no sales pitch, I promise. I've had a lot of interest in this, and so I'm extending it on into the new year. I put the link in the show notes. Click the link and give yourself a gift. I would love to visit with you. Meanwhile, I hope you learned some good things that you can take with you this week as you try to live this week in Bruce Banner mode as much as possible. Y'all have a great week.